Live from the 607 is the ODPH Entertainment Edition, where we're talking movies, comics, TV, and more. Why don't you join in the conversation? Hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to another edition of the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour Entertainment Edition, Binghamton, New York's fastest growing podcast. I am your host, Ken M. Joining me in the studio this week is the one, the only, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Which, if you heard the sports show, we were trying to track down finally from Foxborough. He flew in. He's definitely ready to rock and roll, talk a little comics, movies, TV, and more with you. So, Pat, how you doing this week?
I am floating on cloud nine. I know I wasn't able to talk about it on the show, but hey, let's go Patriots. I'm still working on trying to get Super Bowl tickets. We're going to see what happens.
You know, if anybody has a hookup, definitely hit us up on the hashtag ODPH. Help Pat out. Let's get him to the Super Bowl.
I don't know. Patriots in a Super Bowl, that just seems like a waste of money if you ask me.
Not for me.
But who's that voice, you ask? Well, this is the ODPH Entertainment Edition. And if we're talking comics, we had to bring on our special blog writer. He does the ODPH Comics blog. It's the Bry Guy Signal.
Hey, guys. Happy New Year. A little late, but you know what? Had to make it on the show before the month of January was out.
Yeah, absolutely, because we got something to talk about next segment. Obviously, we're not going to open, but we got to definitely talk about Deadly Class, which if you have not seen, we're going to be doing full spoiler recaps. Definitely need to check it out on the Syfy Network. But we have to open up with a review of the movie Glass. Now, if you haven't seen Glass and you're trying to avoid spoilers, download this episode. Play it when you watch the movie because we're going to start talking spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Now, this was M. Night Shyamalan's trilogy film of his, dare I say, realistic superhero world.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, that's what it appears to be.
Yeah, this was something, originally when it came out as the movie Unbreakable, it was something that, for me at the time, I was like, this is a very interesting concept. And obviously stars Bruce Willis, who plays David Dunn, who survives a train wreck, and he's the only person who does. And Elijah Price, who is played by Samuel L. Jackson, is trying to figure out why. And as you kind of go into the movie, you find out there's a little more ulterior motives going on. And when that movie was done, we thought it was one and done. I thought it was a great movie. I definitely think it was, ahead of its time, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I only watched it a few months back when finally I had a bunch of people who were like, okay, you got to watch Glass is coming out. What do you think of the trailers? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't really know what the movie's about. So I finally watched Unbreakable, and I really liked it. And it's very different, and it's kind of like it's one of those like artsy kind of movies, but you can also watch it because it has a good story, because Shyamalan directs it like you're reading a comic book in terms of like how it looks, the tone, and like the pacing of the movie. And I think it's really good. Like, I enjoy it a lot. And then when I saw that, I was like, okay, I'm ready to see Glass. And then I saw Split because I heard that was also part of the trilogy.
Yeah, if you have not seen Split, you would not know is part of this universe until the very end.
Sure.
And I think that's what kind of sucks for me, knowing, like, okay, this is a trilogy, is when I watched Split, I wasn't as like, oh my gosh, that's David Dunn from Unbreakable. It was, okay, yeah, I know he's in here at some point.
It's one of those things that, like, in the moment when you're seeing it in theaters, you get that, it's the M. Night Shyamalan twist, the running joke. You see it on screen, you're like, oh my God, I didn't expect this. But it's kind of one of those things that, like, it's great in the moment, but then anytime after the movie comes out on Blu-ray, DVD, it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, I know this is a trilogy. The twist is kind of lost on me.
Yeah, for me, I went to see Split in the theaters, and I was like, I marked out. I am not going to lie. The minute I saw Bruce Willis in the diner at the end, I'm like, wait.
Yeah, it's like, I know to see it. It's like, I had another friend who did the exact same thing. It's like, he's sitting at a diner. This woman's like, they gave the guy they arrested 15 years ago a funny name. The one in the wheelchair. What was his name? You just hear someone say, Mr. Glass. And it pans over to Bruce Willis's character.
Yeah, it was just wild at the time to think that, okay, we're going to actually do a comic trilogy here, which is brilliant for the time because, like I said, Unbreakable, at least for me, and Bragg, I use kind of echoed the same sentiment, Pat, too, was ahead of its time in the sense of like being a realistic superhero world.
Because a lot of people who like the Marvel movies now look at this, and it's almost like if it had come out today, I think it would have been much more well received than it was back when it came out. Because from what I understand, it wasn't really liked as much because everyone expected a Sixth Sense style movie because that was the movie Shyamalan had just done. And what's fun about this is like looking at it now where we have all the Marvel movies. It's fun seeing a much more grounded superhero movie. Like the premise, like we said, the premise is Elijah's trying to figure out why. Elijah's character has brittle bone syndrome. And so he is in the belief that if he's on one end of the spectrum in terms of how breakable he is, then naturally there must be someone on the other end. And he thinks when he sees David survive this crash, this horrible crash that no one else does, and he's fine, he's like, you must be the guy who's proven my theory right.
Right. And it's just a fascinating concept. And like we said, we haven't really seen this realistic superhero world, I would say, except Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy.
I would also say the upcoming movie, Brightburn, from director David Yaronofsky. I probably butchered the crap out of that. But essentially, it's the story of Superman, but what if he didn't turn into a hero? What if he was a villain? Where it seems almost grounded like, okay, every time you hear the Superman-type story, no matter if it's Superman or any other story, oh, yeah, they become the hero. They become the good guy, the savior of mankind. Well, this story is kind of like more grounded like, okay, hey, what if they're not?
Isn't James Gunn tagged with it as well?
I want to say like a producer or something like that.
Yeah, there's some kind of connection there with him as well.
Yeah.
So, which I'm super excited to see because that's such a unique concept too.
And that's a good way of putting it. Is what, like I said, critics didn't really take to this movie as Unbreakable when it came out, and that was because some of the marketing was like meant to be more of like a suspense thriller kind of movie, and it doesn't. It's not really like a. It has suspense and it is a thriller, but it's not like Sixth Sense style.
Mm-hmm.
And Quentin Tarantino saw the movie and he liked it, and he said the best way to describe it as Superman lives on Earth all of his life to only just start to figure out he's Superman.
Yeah.
Like he's not like because Bruce Willis's character is obviously an adult at this in the movie, and he really is like once Elijah starts talking to him, he's like, huh. A lot of what you're saying is actually applying to me, even though it sounds stupid that comic book characters exist, but you're not wrong.
Right. And as we see how, everything has kind of evolved over the time, and you see that, Elijah Prince, a.k.a. Mr. Glass, is now in a mental institution, and there's a group that's tracking down David Dunn as well as the Beast, or however you want to define James McAvoy's.
The Horde.
Yeah,
that's
the Horde.
what they call him, is because his character has split personality disorder. I think that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Or he has multiple personalities living inside him, and one of them is the Beast, which is this unstoppable killing machine, kind of like David Dunn's character, except the Beast, like I said, it's a killing machine. It kills people, and it
kills people, and it doesn't care who gets in its way.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, if you've seen Split, I mean, it's the origin story for the Horde and the Beast, and
McAvoy, both in that movie and Glass, he can act the crap out of that role.
Phenomenal. To switch that many characters and have one person play that is just truly astonishing, and just how he pulls it off very flawlessly, too.
Well, and especially you see over the years, like I know Heath Ledger talked about it before he passed away, and various actors have talked about it, where they get into a mode for a character, and they get stuck in that mode where it's to the point that, like, they almost lose sense of themselves, that they get so entrenched in that character. And I mean, various Joker actors have spoken about it over the years.
I would say Daniel Day-Lewis, I know he did that. It was said like from a lot of the movies he did, like he was one of those actors, like he really got into his roles.
Yeah.
And yeah, like McAvoy just switches personalities. Like 1 minute he's a 9-year-old kid who's probably my favorite personality, just because I think it's hysterical watching McAvoy act like a 9-year-old. And then he switches to this, like, evil, methodical school teacher, I guess is the best way to describe Patricia.
Mm-hmm. And just kind of you can see how far the characters swing and just how it's all kind of tied together. And obviously, as there's a mysterious group that's tracking them down, and as we find out later in the film, is there's more than meets the eye, which I do love about this, because at the beginning offset, it was kind of like somebody was trying to research and obviously prove that Mr. Glass's theory that superheroes do exist was wrong.
Right.
And really couldn't, because there wasn't there was a kind of theory setting up of why, obviously somebody that's in the Beast's personality or the Horde's personality, is acting the way they are. They just have, identity disorder. And then you have David Dunn, who they're trying to explain his powers and trying to make him believe that they don't exist. And it's just really kind of interesting in the perspective they go with it. And as you see as the film is progressing after they're finally captured, that when they get all three of them together, and it kind of seems that Mr. Glass was planning this the entire time and was like 3 steps ahead of everybody, including the people that were running the psychiatric ward.
Oh, yeah. I mean, once all the pieces are in place, like, that was probably one of my favorite moments was just when it showed Elijah's whole plan in the movie. And I was like, oh, wow. And that's where I agree with what you're saying. It's like, I think he was planning on more people coming to this institution with him. Like, this whole time, like, he pretended to just be, like, incoherent throughout, like, all those years. And it's just really like, I know what I'm going to do.
Playing the long game.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as you see when they do the big reveal, and when you find out that the Institute is a secret organization.
Yeah, it's like upper class, wealthy people. Like, they're all in this restaurant, and basically what they're trying to do is, like, the psychiatrist who's in the movie, she's one of them. Like we said earlier, she's trying to disprove, like, oh, no, superheroes aren't real. And she says at the end of the movie, it's like, to David Dunn, she's like, oh, did you actually believe that you weren't a superhero when I told you it? Because quite frankly, we don't think men should have the power of gods.
Yeah, it was just very interesting to see. And like we said, we are talking spoilers during this segment too. That when you see Dr. Ellie Staple, who's played by Sarah Paulson, start revealing her, cards on the table, so to speak, and you see that Samuel L. Jackson's character of Mr. Glass was waiting for this, that somehow he knew that when he got captured, that this was ultimately who he was setting up David Dunn and James McAvoy's character to go against. And just like how deep and thought out this plan was just, that was the most biggest shock, I guess, for me watching this.
The shock when it shows him looking at the Beast file before Elijah goes to talk to the Beast, because he's able to get in and out of his room. It shows like he knows how to, he's not as like out of it as the doctors think. And he reads the Beast file, and he like has this like look on his face, and he shuts the file. And then like 20 minutes later in the movie, it's revealed he created the Beast when he crashed the train in Unbreakable, because the same crash that created David Dunn's overseer hero name, as he's known, also created the Beast personality in Kevin, who's the Horde.
Yeah, it was just so well detailed. And just to even put, with M. Night Shyamalan, getting this vision and piecing it together. Because the only knock that I personally had on the film, like, I thought it was almost too comic booky, if I can use that term, in the middle of the film.
Sure.
Yeah, I didn't really care for the middle part very much. There were a lot of points, and I said this to Ken, like, throughout the movie as we're watching. I'm like, okay, can something happen here? Because I'm kind of bored here. Because as much as I liked the doctor's character and what she was doing, especially when she she did actually convince David, like, he started doubting himself, which in comics was like, okay, that moment when the hero like starts to doubt, like, am I doing anything?
Mm-hmm.
Does this do anything good for the people? She had her character, like, besides that, had a lot of just exposition scenes, and I know that's a thing with Shyamalan's movies is the dialogue's a little clunky at times, and there's a lot of heavy exposition, and she does a lot of it in the second act.
Yeah, this was just one that it almost seemed like the dialogue, too, was just too much for the comic book fans. Which, I mean, obviously everybody in the podcast here is comic book fans.
Yeah.
So it was suited towards us. But if you were just somebody that is a casual fan,
like you just saw it on a TV commercial or something, you're like, hey, you know what? Sam Jackson, James McAvoy, Bruce Willis, that looks like kind of how you and I Ken went to go see Looper a couple of years ago.
Yep.
Just because it was Bruce Willis and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, like, that's an interesting pairing. Why don't we go see this? Ended up being a really good movie. Yeah,
it was just one of those, like, okay, I'm going to go to it. It just kind of seemed the movie was geared more towards the comic fans than it was like for a wider audience, which I respect. I'm not saying it was a bad thing. It was just something that I thought, okay, if I wasn't super into comics like I am, I would be going like, this is kind of hokey and this is kind of just, the like so like well explained about every action. And I get why Shyamalan did it, and I think it's great. Because obviously this was his love letter to the fans that have stuck by this now trilogy.
Right.
Because just to think about it, just like how long this idea must have been going around in his head to make it a trilogy when he started making Unbreakable all the years ago. This is just wild to see the payoff. And just how, bring it back tenfold, when you look at now where they've started with Unbreakable to where they are now with Glass, And they did leave Glass off, dare I say, with the potential for more, because the end game for Mr. Glass was
showing the world that they exist, that superheroes exist.
Yeah, like it kind of had like a weird, and I'm going to make a very loose comparison with this.
Okay.
This is like when Grant Morrison was writing X-Men and revealed mutants to the world.
Sure.
It kind of is a loose comparison.
It might be an inspiration for it.
There's a lot of inspirations like throughout this movie. Like I can't remember the character's name from Split. She was the one victim.
Casey Cook by Anna Taylor-Joy.
Yes, her. She got away, and she's able to get through to. She can get through the Horde to Kevin, the actual human who is the Horde. And I at first thought, all right, that's kind of hokey. It's like, all right, she can get through like to the Beast, and like she can get past the Beast and all the personalities. Then the more I think of it, I'm like, no, that's actually smart. That's basically, it was like watching Betty and the Hulk. Like, she is Betty, and Kevin there's the Hulk. Like, she can get through to him regardless.
Yeah, and you kind of saw, I want to almost say like Superman comparisons too, with David Dunn and Joseph Dunn, who is played by Spencer Clark, as his son, and you kind of see like the comparison. I almost want to say like almost to now how they're kind of writing how Superman is now with Jonathan Kent and the next Superboy, and kind of loose comparisons. Like I said, it's not like direct, like, oh, I can
but
fully
you can definitely tell it's like this is very comic inspired. Like if you know your comics, you're like, okay, I see where he's getting that from. But again, loose comparison. It's not blatant.
Oh, it's not blatant. Like I say, we talk comics off air constantly here on the show, so this is like, for us, like, we're just really digging deep into it. But just to see it, of how Mr. Glass's plan is to reveal that there is a group that's hunting superhumans and now has made it gone viral and just really exposed it to the world, and is now almost set off like a genesis for it, that the heroes are now know that they do exist and there's other people out there.
And that's where I kind of hope it doesn't end. I want it to be like open-ended, like or it doesn't continue. Like I hope it's very open-ended from the standpoint that's like, all right, it shows that people are going to come out of the shadows. Like people who think they're gifted are going to suddenly realize I'm not alone and I can be a superhero or supervillain. And it's just, it created the world that this secret society was trying to prevent. And it's like, yeah, they thwarted them.
Yeah, to think that this story has gone on for 19 years.
Yeah,
is just how Shyamalan stayed so true to this and making sure that his vision was seen, and just like all the the story about how getting this film done too is just truly astonishing. So I guess I'm going to kind of leave to close the segment with Brian. I want to ask you final thoughts on this, and then I have a question for the panel.
I think I'm gonna have to give Glass a B+. Like I said, the middle part was kind of dry for me. I personally really loved the first act. And I personally thought the third act was very well done. I know some people aren't huge fans of it, but I personally was like, you know what? When that kicked in and I walked out of the theater, I was happy. Like, I thought that was great. I really think people should go see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will say this: it was a monster weekend for them at the box office, grossing just over $40.3 million.
That's awesome.
And if Wikipedia is correct, the movie only had like a $20 million budget.
That is according to what boxofficemojo.com lists. So, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
So just to see how successful it was. And to bring it back, though, Glass definitely did what it needed to do. Unbreakable was the benchmark that it really set. And obviously to make this a trilogy story from way back when to now, almost 20 years, is truly astonishing. I have to agree with Braga, though, on this. I thought the middle part of the film drug a little bit, and like I said, it was almost too comic booky for casual fans that are not going to really get into it. And like for me, I was sitting there, I was just like, okay, I don't really need all this detail and really have everything fine-tuned and explained, because it was more like a tip of the cap to the fanboys and fangirls out there that are just so into comics. Like, you get it, and it's almost like talking directly to us.
Yeah.
So I do like it. I do recommend it if you like Unbreakable, and I would definitely say go into it and definitely see what the closest thing that we have to a realistic superhero world exists. I mean, if you'd like Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight, that trilogy to me is the benchmark. I do like Shyamalan's vision, though, right underneath it is for realistic superheroes. And my question for the panel.
Okay.
Now, obviously, we know Shyamalan has done a great job with doing realistic superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
If you could see him direct any Marvel or DC character in a solo
boy.
film, who would you want to see?
Well, people have posed him this question, and he's gone on record and said both sides have approached him, but he would have to take a weird spin on it, or they'd have to let him take a weird spin on it because, well, it's Shyamalan.
Okay.
Okay, if you say weird spin, Dr. Fate.
I was thinking the same thing.
That would do it.
If you want weird spin, go Dr. Fate.
I'd say Dr. Fate or even Constantine.
That too. You probably could get Matt Ryan on board.
You get Matt Ryan. Hey, we're gonna do a Constantine movie. M. Night Shyamalan's
And
directing.
he'll
He'd
just
be
show
like,
up,
"Where's
it's
the
like-
dotted line?"
It's like, all right, Shyamalan, what are we gonna make the movie?
Yeah, I tell you what, Dr. Fate was the first person that rang in my head for that. I was like, okay, you want to talk about a character that's obscure enough that you could have a director with a wide vision?
Or Sandman, Neil Gaiman's Sandman.
That'd be an interesting take.
That would be a very hard movie just in general to make. Like, I don't care who would direct it, and I think Shyamalan could do it because he's good at doing twists and everything. I think he could do it, but that would be a very hard one to do. I think Fate would be the safer bet.
Yeah, I definitely think Dr. Fate, like, that just rang true. I think if they didn't already establish Doctor Strange for the MCU, I would have said that would have been. But I would definitely like to see Shyamalan take his vision and make something happen with Dr. Fate. I think that has got a lot of potential if it gets in the right creative hands. And we've obviously seen what Shyamalan can do with the realistic world. Let's open up the playbook and let him run wild with this. But let us know what you think of Glass. We want to know. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What's your thoughts on M. Night Shyamalan's superhero trilogy? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Jimmy Gazdick from Crimson Brethren and Floodlands, and you're listening to ODPH.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition, and we have to talk about our favorite new show here at the panel,
Yeah.
Deadly Class, which is awesome, awesome, awesome. If you have not seen it, I can't recommend it enough. I must have watched the pilot episode about 5 times now. I'm not gonna lie, because it was released early on YouTube. It debuted last week on Wednesday night on Syfy at 10 o'clock. It's gonna be again on the East Coast, Syfy Network, 10 p.m. Wednesdays. But Bry Guy, what was your thoughts on the first episode when we are talking spoilers, folks?
Well, I can be honest. I didn't watch it 5 times, but I did watch the pilot and then immediately order the comic book. So I guess I liked it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I really loved it. It was good. I like I love the 80s throwback it has. I mean, I'm one of those guys who I'm a sucker for 80s nostalgia stuff, and I love it. And it's just so different, and I love how it's like this is on the Sci-Fi Channel, and it's like they just do the craziest stuff on this show that you're like, how are you allowed to air this?
Yeah, this was just one of the wildest things, and we said on last week's show too, Sci-Fi has stepped their game up about reaching for shows outside the box, so to speak.
Happy.
Yeah, happy.
Which is coming up on its 2nd season. I don't know when it starts, but
March, I believe it's March.
Yeah, but that's besides the point. That's another great show. You should definitely check that one out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah,
Whole season's on Netflix.
This is just wild to see that, the independent comics, and dare I say the ones that are, definitely not your Marvel and DC characters, are finally getting some shine and definitely making a statement to a broader audience.
Happy Season 2 returns Wednesday, March 27th at 9 Central on Syfy.
Awesome. Oh, amazing. Amazing.
But I think that's great, though. It's like Image was founded on the sole purpose of authors own their own work. So it's like it would make sense if you want to make comic shows, go there because you can talk to the writers because I would assume it's much easier to create Deadly Class versus saying you want to create like an Agents of Steel of a Shield style show because you have to go through Marvel, Disney, and everyone. But it's like Image was founded on, Image just really has the logo and then the author owns all of the work.
The author and the artist. I mean, it just depends on who collaborates. Wow. About it.
You're the creator of said product. You have all rights of said product. It's just we're the folks who help you get your product out.
Now, Braga, you did allude that you have read the book.
Most of it. I am like 3/4 of the way through the first volume, which we are past in the comic. I'm past the pilot episode. I would say it's very close to the source material in terms of like where it's at. There's a few differences in it, but nothing like, oh my gosh, this is changing the show drastically. I would say like the one like where I'm at in the comic is versus the show, which we are talking spoilers in case we didn't throw that out there. His first kill isn't a bad guy. He's the first kill that the main protagonist, whose name is
Marcus.
Marcus, thank you. I can't remember people's names today. Marcus kills a homeless war veteran and for his class assignment, and he gets thrown in basically like solitary confinement because he broke the rules of his assignment. Was you killed an innocent person. He tried to say he was a bad guy, but he wasn't. Whereas in the show, he kills him and they set him on fire, and it's like, hey, you're good to go. You got an A here.
Yeah, because where the show sets in, I mean, it sets in 1980s San Francisco, and you see the protagonist Marcus, and you kind of see where he's at in his life, and obviously
It's not good.
At this time, no, it is definitely not good where he's at, and you kind of get the quick backstory about how his parents were killed, and he's basically homeless and on the streets, and where he's now, having a problem with, somebody he's perceiving as a bad guy in where he's staying. And obviously at this time period, it's like he gets caught up in this mysterious group of assassins, the school for assassins, shall we say. And you start seeing, other characters start showing up. You see Maria, who's very influenced by Day of the Dead, and, with her face paint and how she's, going through the crowd as well. And then Saya, who I'm convinced is the breakout star of this show.
Oh, yeah. I freaking love Saya.
Saya is amazing on the show.
Whereas, she's different because she's a, Yakuza daughter?
Yes.
That's what it is? Yeah, thought so.
And as you see, that when they all get kind of tangled up, because Master Lin, who's played by Benedict Wong, as we mentioned from Doctor Strange fame, recruits Marcus Lopez, who's played by Benjamin Wadsworth. He gets involved in the camp, and then you start seeing the other characters start coming through, and Saya, who's played by Lana Condor, she recruits him and brings him back to the school, and then you start seeing where the show goes from there. I mean, it's so 80s, and it's music. I love the soundtrack. The soundtrack is amazing on this show. And just to see how it's tied into the Reagan era of, that time period of the 80s too, is just so much detail in Rick Remender's story. I thought it was just so good to see. I mean, like I say, it was, for me, I thought it was a very good depiction of the story going into for the pilot episode.
I thought so too. I really, like I said, I literally did go buy the comic after I finished watching the episode, and it's like I just enjoyed it, and I'm really excited to see where they go with the second episode, which comes out tonight. Although if it's going off of the comic, that means we're going to get a Vegas acid trip here in the next episode.
Yeah, this one, like I say, it's definitely one I would say is not safe for work, so to speak. And this is just as much in your face as is going on. And as you're getting introduced to the different groups that are at the school, and you're kind of seeing there's so much going on that you almost wonder what is the real story in the show, because every character seems to have an ulterior motive, so to speak. And it's very interesting to see as it's going through, because Master Lin appears to be trying to help Marcus, but you're kind of getting the sense to know he's not.
Yeah.
And they really haven't dug into that as much. So when all these characters are under the roof of King's Dominion, this is where you kind of start seeing where it's the coming-of-age story. And almost like I don't want to say Riverdale-esque story, but there are, obviously teen elements involved. But it's so well done. Like, that's the thing about it. Because you're taking, it's not Harry Potter by any means, but you're taking just like the flip side to that.
Honestly, one thing I thought while watching the pilot of the episode is, part of me is just kind of like, and Ken, I'd like your input on this. You could see this is where John Wick went to high school.
Yeah. No, that's a fair
statement. You have the whole society of assassins with their hotel. It's like, okay, yeah, this is where everybody met, and this is how they know each other.
Who's to say it's not? I haven't read anywhere that they've said it's not related to John Wick.
Well, there's no dogs in the
that
in
you
the
know
school,
of.
so.
That we know of
Yes.
yet.
That you know of.
That would be one hell of a mind trip.
Whatever,
you'd be all for it.
Whatever the series finale happens, which I hope is not soon. I hope that's years down the road. It just ends with someone getting the title Baba Yaga.
Yeah, this would just be something just completely epic if that was the case. But no, I think Deadly Class is just its own sustaining story, just no connection. And that's what it should be, because these characters got so much development that, I mean, obviously from the first episode, and like I said, Saya is the one who stole the episode. I think every time she was on the screen, she just, all eyes were focused on her no matter where she was. And just goes to show, I mean, how this is going to be the breakout character of the show, in my opinion, at least. And as we see with going through the episode, Marcus is deciding, does he want to stay? Does he want to go? He's going through a lot of different emotions at this point. And then when he's given his first assignment on the show about, killing somebody that is an evil person.
Yeah.
So that's where he goes back to his homeless camp. And then that's where there's all types of drama going on because he gets picked up by Willie, who's played by Luke Tenney. And Willie, you seem to find out there's more to him going on than originally thought.
Yes, definitely. And his backstory is very close to what it was in the comics, and that's he came from a crime family, but in the comics, like, his dad didn't want him to do it. Like, he tried to keep him out of it, and then his dad is killed, and his uncle says, all right, you killed him, so that's why he gets put into school, because they think, all right, you're a murderer, you just killed the guys who killed your father. And he's, in the comic, no, he doesn't want it. Like, he aims his gun at someone, and he can't pull the trigger because he's like, I'm not a killer. Yeah,
and where this kind of evokes Marcus to kind of figure out where he is going in as a character, because he's pushed from the shove. The person that he was assigned, his homework assignment, so to speak, the one that was stole his family's picture and beat him up before the show, is now threatening Willie and threatening to kill him. So Marcus has to make a decision, and obviously you kind of see what tenfold happens there. And then going into where they are going for next week, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see where it plays out. I thought just overall, I thought from top to bottom, the Russo brothers are executive producers of part of the show too. This just had like a movie feel to it, but it wasn't a movie. It was on, cable TV.
It was like a Netflix show almost. Like you'd expect something on Netflix, like good storytelling, good effects, good acting, and you're like, all right, this is like a high budget Netflix show. It's like, no, it's not.
No, it definitely wasn't. This was just something like, I can't speak highly enough of Syfy's production work lately.
Oh yeah, they're definitely stepping it up in the last couple of years. I mean, yes, they did used to be known for those real crappy D movies that like you're flipping through the channels in the afternoon going, why is this a thing and why did somebody bankroll this? Hi, I'm looking at you, three-headed shark movie.
Just about to say that.
Get him, Pad.
Like I just remember that one when I was out one day and it was on a TV someplace and it was like a three-headed shark at like a beach resort someplace. Just awful. But no, they've definitely stepped up their game. I mean, you look at Happy, you look at Deadly Class and everything else they've been working on. They're definitely stepping their game up.
Yeah, this is just awesome to see, and we're just complimenting too. I mean, like I said, there were some movies in the past that honestly, and we're just giving our honest opinions as fans, not exactly the best things we've ever seen.
No.
But I tell you what, to bring the unique vision of Happy to the screen.
Maloney.
Yeah, and Patton Oswalt, and just to see how that story played out, and let alone they're going to do a sequel.
Yeah, it's like there was only one volume of the comic. It was just it was a mini series. And so it was like, all right, the first season ended. It's like, yeah, there's a second one coming. It's like, really? And I'm now like super pumped for it.
Yeah, it was just wild to see that they're doing this. But then the success of Happy kind of led into you can try taking a shot with Deadly Class, which is a great story. It's definitely not your Marvel and DC comic book. I personally recommend get down to your local comic book shop wherever you're at and pick up a copy and make the call for yourself.
I would second that.
Yeah, because it's a great read, and this is where you can find out where you can compare and contrast from the shows, because the TV show in itself has just been spot on. I mean, I think everything there's been some little changes here and there from the books, but that's to be expected.
Yeah. When I was saying like there's differences, I wasn't trying to say, oh, the show's bad because it's not 100% faithful. That never happens. You have to make adjustments when you do adaptations. And what I look at is this is still telling the story that's in the comic. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm okay with. And I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, because this is definitely something that you're not seeing on every channel by any means. And I think for Syfy to take the shot with it, I think is awesome. I mean, I can't speak highly enough when networks decide to go outside the normal DC and Marvel universe and take a shot with something and keep it as faithful as possible. Obviously you're going to make changes here and there, but that's why I said as much as you can to the core essence of the characters and the story that you're telling. Because if you wonder why there's so much of hits with fans, because we all like the stories we see at the comic shops. and to see it happen live on screen, that's so truly telling. And plus, anytime you can put Henry Rollins on a TV show, I am down for. And have him being the chemistry teacher was amazing. And I'm super, 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 super excited about where this series can go. If you haven't seen it, find it wherever you can. I don't know if it's still on the YouTube release, because I know that it was posted before episode 1 came out. I don't know if episode 1 is still out there. If it's not, see where you can track it down, through Syfy. And definitely stay tuned for episode 2, which is coming on Wednesday night, 10 p.m. on Syfy channel. Final thoughts on Deadly Class before we close the segment out, starting with Bry Guy.
Solid. Absolutely solid. I highly recommend it. And I'm not just saying that because we've been talking. I really do. It was just such a fun time watching it. And like I said, I just love the whole 80s nostalgia. Like, if you're a Stranger Things fan and love all the 80s nods they do, you'll love this just on the show, on that aspect alone. And then just you'll get hooked on, like, the characters and just, like, this whole concept of it, of just, yeah, we have a school where we send all the deadliest kids to become trained assassins.
Pat had to step out for a second. I got to just say this. This is just what you want to see of a great coming-of-age story, and we've all seen that throughout the years. No matter what generation you've been born in, there's always a movie or a TV show that kind of does something like that. Deadly Class is so unique in its sense of just it just feels so punk rock to me anyway. And just from the music, the synth rock to the punk rock, and just all the little, dare I say, just the different left to center kind of vibe that you get from the time period it's in, and just kind of, just it's a different feel than what you normally see on TV. For me, I definitely dug it. And I dug the music. I dug the characters, just kind of seeing just where they all are standing and just how everybody just has something going on. This isn't one that you can kind of go, oh, I figured this one out already. No, every character has something going on with them. And like I said, Saya is the breakout character right now. Who's to say she'll still be the one at the end of the season? You're going to have to stay tuned and find out. You'll be hearing about a lot more about Deadly Class here on the ODPH Entertainment Edition, but hit us up on that hashtag ODPHEE. Join in the conversation on social media. What do you think about Deadly Class? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Mike Pappy from Rye Bread, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Coming back for segment number 3 on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition, and the Academy Awards were announced on Tuesday as we are recording on Wednesday. So the big news story of this was Best Picture, at least for the ODPH panel.
Yep.
Pad, why is that the case?
Well, because, of course, the Oscars are kind of they're the cherry on top of awards season. All the other awards are great. Don't get me wrong. It's good to win the Golden Globes and the SAG Awards and everything else. But the Oscar is the one everyone wants. That's the one, if you have a trophy case at home and you're an actor or a film director, you've got your various awards, but, your Oscar is the one you put at the top of your trophy case.
And the one you point out, and then it's like, oh, that's a Golden Globe. Yeah,
that's all. It's also the one kind of like in, for Major League Baseball, just of course announced their Hall of Fame candidates that are making it in this year. Those players will forever be announced as Major League Baseball Hall of Famer blank. This, if you win one of these categories, or it'll be Academy Award winning director so and so. So these are definitely the big ones. It's the cherry on top.
And why is this so important to the panel?
Because for the first time ever in the Academy's long tradition, a comic book movie has been nominated for Best Picture. What comic book movie, you ask? Well, that would be one Black Panther.
Amazing nomination. Amazing.
Definitely well-deserved.
Thoughts around the panel about that, Bry Guy?
It's definitely a shock. It's like normally movies like this never get nominated for Best Pictures. They usually just get like costume design or best special effects.
It's
sometimes original score.
Usually it's the ones that are like announced super early in the night, or the ones that like, hey, here are all the ones we did the day prior, and they just list off what it is and who won.
Yeah, is one of those that for comic book fans like that we never really hear our movies get set on the shows.
I mean, the lone exception for kind of this, because sci-fi fantasy movies typically don't get
Let's see.
Best Picture nominations. Now, obviously, the exceptions being Shape of Water by Guillermo del Toro, Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, but those aren't your traditional, sci-fi movies. You don't really see, they don't fit that typical mold, but it does very occasionally happen.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we saw the late Heath Ledger got a posthumous award for his portrayal as the Joker from The Dark Knight. I mean, that's been arguably, I would say, the most high-profile comic character in the big award show.
Yeah, no, like I said, this is the first time you've had a comic book movie nominated for Best Picture. Outside of that, Heath Ledger winning the posthumous award back right after he died for his role as Joker in The Dark Knight. It's kind of been it in the highest award.
Yeah, so to see Black Panther get nominated for it, and I believe 7 nominations in total.
Yeah.
Truly astonishing, and it just goes to show we talked about how Unbreakable came out in year 2000, and just seeing the evolution of comic book heroes and comic book movies. Now, I mean, it's so mainstream now.
Yeah.
That it's being finally, acknowledged by the Academy Awards. This is just something wild for me to see, and I'm so happy that it's finally broken through. Because, like we've said, we usually hear about it, for the costume designs, for visual effects. It's never really for the actual whole picture itself.
Let's say John Williams got a nomination for his Superman score back in the late 70s, and then Suicide Squad won for best makeup a few years ago. But it's the movies themselves aren't up there as oh yeah, this is a contestant for best picture.
Right. I mean, typically, like you said, it's the best visual effects, best costume, best this, best that. I mean, you look at Avengers: Infinity War, one of the most well-received, loved comic book movies of last year. Got 1 nomination. That's for best visual effects, which, side note, that category is Murderer's Row. I don't care what anyone else says about any other category. Visual effects, if you know anything about those movies, is Murderer's Row.
Break it down for us.
So for your best visual effects category, the nominees are Avengers: Infinity War, Christopher Robin, First Man, Ready Player One, and Solo: A Star Wars Story. Holy crap.
Ready Player One, I hope, wins that.
It's one of those ones that I don't care who wins. Whoever wins it, it's very well deserved, because those are all visually stunning movies.
Yes.
Yeah, Ready Player One or Avengers, I think for me has got my vote.
Let's say Avengers probably for dropping a moon on people.
Yeah, there's just so much that you can factor in with that.
Are we not going to talk about the nerd moment of Mecha Godzilla fighting Gundam? That deserves more than a moon.
Okay.
It's a highly debated.
After Gundam airdrops out of Serenity from Firefly, turns into the thing and jabs it into his sword into Mechagodzilla's neck.
I would say, if anything,
that deserves much more, in my opinion, than a moon.
Ready Player One will probably win it, just because for the sheer amount of visual effects on screen and how much is getting pulled off at one single moment. So that's probably my guess to win. Although, if, like I said, any of them win, hey, congratulations. They're all stunning.
Yeah, we might have to bring back the Parlay Awards for this one, because this would be a very highly... We might have to make a Twitter poll about this. I'm just saying. What do you think is going to win this one out?
Make the Twitter poll.
Yes, we might have to have this third party settle it. Even though there's so many visual awards, and like I said, that's such a stacked competition, it's just amazing to see just how far the comic book movies and sci-fi has really kind of evolved to where they're getting the recognition that they are now.
Yeah. No, it's definitely one of those things that, we obviously enjoy comic book movies, and people obviously enjoy comic book movies, because if we didn't, they would have stopped making them a long time ago. It's just very cool to see comic book movies kind of get that, that Lord of the Rings validation with, okay, people love these movies, and they were very good movies, but it took 3 films to get Lord of the Rings any sort of awards. It's taken, obviously, very, very, very many more comic book movies to get some sort of recognition outside of the best costume, best visual effects, best score. But it's very cool to see.
Yeah, and Black Panther was such a success at the box office that, just to see them get nominated for an award is an amazing, cherry on that sundae, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And to see him bring home the trophy will be even more amazing if that's going to happen.
We'll say, if it's going to happen, it's a tough category.
Oh, it's a very stacked category for Best Picture.
Yeah. Your other nominees, besides Black Panther, are Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite, Green Book, Roma, A Star Is Born, and Vice.
Star Is Born, I'm thinking, is going to get it.
Probably.
I have a feeling it's going to get it. Star Is Born. I mean, for me, it taken my comic book fan out of the equation and just going, picture for picture. Star Is Born is a great film, but so I could see it definitely bringing home the Oscar. But I will be rooting for Black Panther. as I'll be rooting in the animated film category because the movie got nominated.
Yep. That would be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse got nominated for Best Animated Feature. Also in the category, Incredibles 2,
Yes.
Isle of Dogs, Mirai, and Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Another stacked competition in that one.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously,
Honestly, there's like if it's Spider-Man, I'm happy with it. I would hope it's Incredibles 2, just because I love that movie so much.
I just find it weird that I'm looking like you can pull up any sort of Oscar 2019 nominations list and you scroll through it, and it's just weird to me to see a director like Wes Anderson in the animated feature category. It's just so out of left field and odd.
Yeah, it's just...
He did a Fantastic Mr. Fox. This is his first animated movie.
That's true.
Yeah, this is just one to, like, but Pat was saying, just to see his name in that category is just, you got to take a double take on that. But for me, I mean, you've heard me talk enough on this show about how much I love Into the Spider-Verse and how I think that should just win outright.
I think it will, just because of the sheer fact that, yes, Incredibles 2 was a very good movie and one longly anticipated by very, very, very many people and fans. But you just look at everything that has been discussed coming out of Into the Spider-Verse, from the look to how it was made and how they want to see more movies like it. To me, when you run through that list, it has had the most lasting impact on the animated genre out of all of them.
And how crazy it is to talk about Marvel with their animation film.
Yeah.
Being the successful.
Well, I'll say Marvel's revered for the animated series back in the 90s with Spider-Man and X-Men, but when it comes to their movies, they're not really mentioned at all.
No, it's usually DC that gets a lot of the praise, as they should, because the DC films, the animated films, are great. But to see when Marvel now is getting nominated for this is truly an amazing feat, and it just goes to show, like, to bring it back to the beginning, of just how far comic book movies have gone, especially even with the animated now, too. Mm-hmm. That they're now going to be on the mainstream, the biggest award show for the mainstream with the Oscars that you could possibly be. And if they win, I mean, that's just even more telling, just of how far they've come. This is just something to be excited to watch. Mm-hmm. Final thoughts around the panel about the Academy Awards and the comic book movies that got nominated.
I really do think it's great. Like a good example of why I thought, like, this stuff, or like when I can think back to these movies never get mentioned, like, going off of what Pat said, like sci-fi, fantasy, comics. Like if you went back to 2015 when Force Awakens came out, it was the highest grossing movie of the year, and it, again, just fell into the categories of nominated for Best Score, Best Special Effects, and something else.
Right.
It's just like Best Picture contender, despite the fact it's the highest grossing movie that year. Nope.
Yeah.
Pat?
Definitely excited to see how this goes. There's a lot of categories that are very interesting. I mean, lead actor is also a murderer's row of who the heck is going to come out of that fight. Christian Bale has been nominated for his role in Vice. Bradley Cooper has been nominated from A Star is Born. Willem Dafoe has been nominated from At Eternity's Gate. Rami Malek has been nominated for Bohemian Rhapsody, and Viggo Mortensen has been nominated for Green Book. Holy crap.
Yeah,
those first three just listed are all comic actors.
I was saying the last one was in Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Yeah, it just goes to show, I mean, just how far the genre has come, and now, I mean, with Black Panther getting the nominations in 7, I mean, that is truly a remarkable feat.
Yeah.
And it's just a tip of the cap to everybody at Marvel Studios for making that happen, because now, I mean, dare I say, when you think that comic book movies have plateaued, they just keep getting even further and further. Mm-hmm. I mean, who knows? We might live in the day and age where all the Best Picture nominees are going to be comic book movies.
That'll be wild.
It would be insane. I don't think it's going to happen, but you never know. And like I say, they
live-action rendition of The Killing Joke.
Oh God!
You know what? That could. I mean, Watchmen.
Watchmen
has been made, so I'm just saying that certain sacred comic books could be made into live-action movies. We saw the animated one.
Yep.
So it's not to say that something there's such a strong story could be presented like that. Because like I said, Watchmen is the benchmark that we set that all by. And to see that got made into a film, you can never say never. How Punisher Warzone was ignored, though, at the Oscars, I will never understand. But we'll have to see. I was waiting to see what the panel was going to react about that one. And just to see that, Black Panther has gotten up there, and to answer a listener question, no, I do not count Birdman as a comic book movie, even though Michael Keaton was in this, because this actually came across our Instagram page. You can find our links on our social media, to all our social media on ochoduroparlayhour.com. But it's awesome to see, to close the segment out, the comic book movies have gotten all the nominations that they're starting to get in. And for Black Panther to get 7, that's awesome. I hope they bring home the trophy in February. But let us know what you think. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPHEE. What's your thought on the Academy Award nominations? And what do you think about Black Panther getting nominated for Best Picture? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Johnny Moose from Excite Wrestling, and you're listening to the ODPH. I didn't mess it up. I thought I would. Right now, back to the guys.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition. How about those one-shots, Pad?
Well, I'm going to start off with a game I mentioned has been coming out. No, it's not Kingdom Hearts 3, although we are in the end game. Forget Avengers Endgame. We are in the end game for Kingdom Hearts 3 that is out in less than 1 week now. Boy, am I excited. No, another game I've been waiting a long time for, one that I played the demo for 3 times at New York Comic Con. Ace Combat 7 was released last week, and I'm maybe about halfway through, a little more than halfway through the campaign. Great game. Definitely got that old school Ace Combat feel to it if you've ever played any of the games on the PlayStation 2 or the PlayStation 3 or what, the past ones, Ace Combat 4, 5, 6. It's definitely got that feel to it. It reverts back to because I know they'd taken a deviation from going from the fictional world to the real world. It goes back to the fictional world. Things definitely tie into past games, and it's nice to see those little nods of, hey, this happened and that happened. Great game. Not as easy as you would think because they've definitely upped the mechanics and the controls from what it used to be. And definitely some of the missions early on are very hard. There's one mission where you have to fly into enemy territory, and they have this radar network that you have to navigate through. And if any part of your plane hits any part of those, radar bubbles that are on your map, mission's over. Done with. Great game. It's currently on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It will be released on PC on February 1st, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely go check it out. Give it a pickup. You don't need to. I know it being the 7th one might turn some people off. Oh, I haven't played any of the other ones. You don't need to.
Okay.
They reference enough things, and they kind of fill you in on the parts you need to know where you won't get lost.
Interesting. And I remember you playing that down at the New York Comic Con.
Yep.
Convention too, and I mean the demo looked awesome. I know a lot of people from the panel were playing. I know you did.
Yep.
John Guy Signal, Breon. I mean the game looked awesome. And I mean
it's amazing.
Yeah, just from your reaction to it. I mean this was something because for me I'm not really too big into those kind of games.
Sure.
Like if it's not Injustice 2, I really don't pay attention.
Sure.
I'm just being honest. So I mean obviously with Ace Combat though, this is the one that you definitely want to.
Yeah, if you're into kind of the flight simulators, the fictional universes kind of thing, even if you played some of the older Ace Combat games back in the day, this is one you absolutely have to pick up.
All right, and it's out right now.
Out right now.
So definitely check that out if you're looking for a video game to get started on this weekend, because it is definitely worth playing. Mm-hmm. Bry Guy, what you got?
Rob Liefeld recently, who is the co-creator of Deadpool, Cable, and Domino, recently announced that he's going to be coming out with a 6-issue miniseries called Major X. He is returning to the X-Men universe to create a new character.
Interesting.
Go on. I mean, you have my interest.
And yeah, it'll be coming out in April. 6-issue miniseries. Basically, Major X comes from a different plane of existence called the X-istence. Oh boy! Which is a safe haven for mutants. And he comes to the current X-Men continuity, and they become his first target. The first issue is going to be drawn by him as well, if I didn't say that already. And we got a cover here, and it's got the new character Major X. Kind of has a Deadpool-ish look to him with the gun.
Sure.
He's got dual wielding pistols. Looks like he's got a rifle on his back, and I think possibly a sword hilt also there on his back. And behind him is Deadpool, Cable, Wolverine, Storm, and Beast.
So what you're saying is he's come to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and he's all out of bubblegum.
I would assume so. He's got a helmet, though, so we can't tell if he actually is done with his bubblegum yet.
That's true.
Now, the article and picture of this you can see on IGN.com. And this, I mean, for the visual I'm seeing right now.
I see funky feet.
Yes.
So that's how you know it's a true Liefeld creation.
What I wasn't going to go there, but what I was going to say, but very valid point. I was going to say, to me, this kind of almost looks in a very odd sense of like a variation of Cyclops' most recent costume.
I was going to say, actually, as you say that, I was also going to say it's like a cross between that and Judge Dredd.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm looking at
I was
the photo.
trying
yeah.
to think like who the heck this guy looks like, and I'm like, okay, the helmet kind of looks like Judge Dredd.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. I mean, this is huge news for Liefeld to be coming back to the X universe.
Well, let me throw this at you because this has just occurred to me. What if this is like a parallel dimension? What happens to Cyclops in like the worst possible way? Like if it's an alternate future, like there's multiverse.
Well, it just said this is like a safe haven for mutants. This
Right.
where he's from. So.
Right.
And now he's coming to this one where he's after the X-Men.
This is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, we haven't seen Liefeld really return. I mean, I know there was the Deadpool Bad Blood one-shot that he did.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, you know what Liefeld brings to the table involving his history with the X-Men universe. Cable,
Yeah.
Deadpool, Shatterstar.
It's one of those names that even if you are a casual, you pick up a comic every now and then. You're not reading them kind of religiously or weekly. You see the name Rob Liefeld, you go, oh, okay, no, I'll pick this one up.
Yeah, I mean, this is just something for me, especially. I mean, knowing when he took over New Mutants and what he was doing, being a co-creator on that, and seeing where he ran with it. And I mean, eventually became X-Force, and how that is very, very different than what you saw in Deadpool 2. I just want to point that out.
Yeah.
The original book is very good, but very different than the movie. But just to see him coming back, I mean, I think is very cool. I mean, albeit though it's for 6 issues, as you're saying.
Yes, starting in April.
Yeah, this is just something to be very interested in checking out. And I mean, obviously, I don't know where they're going to go with it, because if they want to tie this in, like hypothetically, let's say it's Professor X from an alternate timeline.
Sure.
I mean, we don't know. Just with the helmet, though, as we're looking, and like we said, IGN has the article up on their website. For us, it's looking, and for me anyway, this, like I said, it kind of looks like a variation of Cyclops' one of his most recent costumes.
Yep.
But I'm not going to say it's him, though.
Sure.
I'm just going to steer away from it.
All we know, they got big things planned for X-Men.
Yes. Well, they are definitely doing that. That's going to kind of segue a little bit into my one-shots this week, because I was talking about what's going to be hitting the stands as well. And the first book that was jumping off, which for me, I know it's, when I'm thinking X-Men, I'm also thinking Guardians of the Galaxy 2, because I'm thinking like, okay, what's the big team books in the Marvel Universe? They're restarting Guardians of the Galaxy 1 this week. And Donny Cates is writing it, and anything about him, he's one of the bigger rising names at Marvel. He does a fantastic job, and 3 words that'll solidify, if you're not sure what he's capable of: Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Mic drop.
Yes. If you have not dug into that character,
you're in for a trip.
Get familiar, because he, in my, if I can foresee the future, he's going to take over Deadpool in popularity.
Probably.
I'm going to go out on a bold statement and say that.
That's a bold statement, but I can honestly see it. I can see it.
Yeah, just how much he's getting a push. And if I'm not mistaken, because I'm still catching up on certain stories involving Cosmic Ghost Rider, this is the first time that he's really been introduced, per se, into the 616 universe, into a high-profile position on one of the biggest teams in the Marvel Universe.
It definitely appears to be.
Yeah, because without going spoiler on this, because I'm really trying to duck doing that with this one, because I think the storyline in this is very different.
Yeah.
It's very, not per se the usual Guardians of the Galaxy storyline we've seen. A lot of moving parts, a lot of stuff, in the fallout from Thanos being decapitated in Infinity Wars. And just to see where they're going and seeing the new team lineup, you'll have to pick up the issue yourself and check it out. But all I can say is Cosmic Ghost Rider's on that squad.
Enough said.
Yeah, him and Groot.
And
I'm wondering if Rocket Raccoon is going to make an appearance, because
I
could only imagine the banter between all of the parties involved. That will be something to check out. So Marvel's got a big week with that, and DC Comics is doing their next Wonder Comics, because I was going to say Young Justice, because I've been watching that in the DC Universe. But Wonder Comics has this new character named Naomi coming out. I don't know that much, and the only thing I can really say is Brian Michael Bendis is behind the character.
Okay.
And this is going to be the next book under the Wonder Comics line. Obviously, Young Justice just came back to the comic book stores. And, I mean, issue 1 was very good. I'm expecting a lot of good things from this book as well. Definitely hit up your local comic shop and check it out. And also get Deadly Class while you're there, too. There's so many good comics out right now.
Yeah, there are.
You just got to get... I don't know where you can find the time for it, but, hey, make it.
I struggle with that.
Yeah, we all struggle with that here on the panel, on the ODPH. And my last one, I got to give a special programming announcement. Next week, we have 2 spotlight editions of the ODPH coming out. Shout at the Robots will be on the show next week, and Floodlands will be on the show. We have both bands booked. If you're not familiar with them, get ready. You're going to hear about two great bands in the 607. They're going to come on and tell you their story, and there's a very big show that our good friend Jimmy Gazdick is going to break down.
Yeah, Jimmy.
Yes. So stay tuned for that next week. But that's all we got for this week. So for the Bry Guy Signal,
I'm out, guys.
for Padawan J,
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour Entertainment Edition. We'll see you next time.